Let's talk about that big personality who wasn't in the room. As you noted, he does have a commanding lead in those polls, but instead he opted out to skip the debate last night and instead go to Michigan, where there are auto workers on a strike. Do you think that was a smart decision? What do you make of that?
Politically speaking, brilliant. I mean, number one, he goes to where the biggest news item of the week, other than potential shutdown rather, in Washington was with the United Auto Workers strike. The fact that the president of the United States came out of Washington to go on join that picket line, the first president ever to do that, was a made-to-order opportunity for Donald Trump to try to one-up him. And of course, Donald Trump. This goes into the previous discussion. He's focused on Joe Biden. Some of the Republicans last night in the debate were focused on each other and on Donald Trump. I think that the former president has his eyes where they need to be. I thought, he did a typical. I mean, I watched his performance in Michigan for about 30 minutes last night. Fascinating, right? Vintage Donald Trump, full of stories and oratory, but he was very clearly saying to the auto workers of America, I've got your back. And he was communicating more directly to one person, Sean Fain, who's the head of the UAW union, saying, you and your team, your union need to endorse me, and kind of throwing down the gauntlet. It used to be a given, Brittany, that the unions were essentially about 100% going Democrat. The fact that they withheld their endorsement to this moment is really telling, because I think the union membership understands, regardless of what their feelings are about the presidential, that their membership is becoming more and more uneasy about Joe Biden's leadership in Washington, more and more uneasy overall with some Democratic policies. And they can't just say, well, speaking on behalf of the entire union, we're going this way. I think they needed the union members to, in a way, help drive the decision, as opposed to what normally happens in unions, which is leadership down.
In this conversation, really in every conversation nationwide, even on the debate stage, it was mentioned, Donald Trump seems unbeatable right now based on the polls. So what do you think that these contenders need to do to really break out from the pack and distinguish themselves?
I think that the others in the Republican field need a break, and they're not going to probably create that on their own. I think they quietly, and they never would say this publicly, are hoping that maybe the courts of law will wend their way into the courts of public opinion in a negative way for the former president, opening up this contest all over again. Still could, by the way. I mean, you just saw the decision come out of New York, and it was almost like a fly being swatted off by the former president. It didn't really affect him at all. It doesn't seem to have affected the polls. I think you put it this way, the breakout moment, if it's not going to be in a debate, and I don't think it's going to be, by the way, given we now have two under our belt, is going to happen in the state of Iowa. Okay, that is the first legitimate and full test where people actually vote, right, with their feet and with their hearts, where we'll get a read on this. If anyone running overperforms expectations, not even about winning there, say that Ron DeSantis came within 2 points of Trump in Iowa, or Nikki Haley, or Tim Scott, right, suddenly overperformed in a big way in Iowa. They then parachute very quickly into New Hampshire. If that person does well there, you have a whole nother look of a contest, perhaps, as opposed to a coronation.